What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 28th. Yeah, that's right, the 28th podcast. I can't believe we've been doing this for so long, but welcome regardless to the Boundless Business Podcast. We're so excited to talk about, again, a data topic today. And this is something that we've been hearing quite a bit about on specifically the new Pixel solution that we have. It's like, what do we actually do with it? So I know Justine has a couple great questions. Larissa and I have been working tirelessly on building solutions and templates. So excited to share a little bit more what's going on the back end today.
Yeah.
Awesome, Justin.
So today we're talking about what to do after you receive your data, what you can actually do with that. So I figured we can start with a quick review of the process of how we get the data, and then we'll talk about what to do with it once you actually have it. So anyone wants
Sure,
to
I can give a quick overview of kind of the process. So essentially, we have a pixel. It's a really short code snippet that goes directly on your website. It's basically just an analytics tracker. So what happens is somebody goes on your website, the pixel triggers, and it goes to our backend database, which if you are a pixel client of ours, you have access to your own custom one. And that's where really your data is stored. And the kind of data that you should expect would be things like email, phone number, whether or not they're on a do not call list, some geographic information, so you know kind of where they're visiting your site from or where they are essentially, as well as like what pages on your site they visited, and retargeting codes. So we've got hash SHA-256, MD5, all of those for like retargeting ads. That's kind of the data you can expect. We also do get some like social media URLs. So like the Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Flickr, and YouTube, I think are the 5 that we're able to get. So Flickr and YouTube might not be the most useful, but Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, those are all big ones that we have in there as well. So that's kind of the quick overview. To be honest, how you get the data is you spend 15 minutes and put it on your site, and then it will automatically populate for you and you'll start to get all that info. So that's, I don't know if there's any questions there, or if there's anything really we want to dive into. It's, to be honest, a very simple setup process. And from there, like, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, and like I said, we have many podcasts and resources if you have any questions. Or as a plug, email me at nico@boundlessmedia.com with subject line podcast. I have gotten a couple of emails and I'm like, oh, who are you? So just give me some context for that. But yeah, a lot of resources around that specifically. So amazing. So and the only thing I would add to that is with over 300 different data points, and what we're going to be talking about today is like when you have it, like what do you do with it? So we'll get into more logistics around that, but just a very high level overview is like pixels on the site. It's basically like a camera, and anyone who comes into it, it says, oh, that's a red car, that's a blue car, but just with a lot more data.
Yeah, so with the pixel, we're able to identify exact visitors, exactly who was on your site, how many pages they visited, what their kind of activity looks like as well. Oh, Justine, I can't hear you.
Okay,
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Laura, so you mentioned retargeting ads. Do we want to start there and kind of dive into what you can do there?
Sure, there's a ton of different applications for this, and part of it depends on your other marketing efforts too, right? So not every single one of our clients is really that interested in retargeting ads. Some of them, they just haven't seen much success with their ad campaigns, so they're not really running ads. Some don't want to run ads. Some would rather just do some direct outreach. Really what you do with the data is your own. But what's really cool about this is we have with those codes, you can plug them in. Essentially what they are is they're kind of like encrypted email addresses. So what those codes do is they encrypt the email address that's associated with the individual, and then you can just copy and paste those directly into, let's say, your Google Ads Manager or your Facebook ads or TikTok ads, Twitter ads, whatever. Many of them use either MD5 or SHA-256. And you can plug them in to create your own retargeting audiences of everyone who's been on your site. So there's a lot of different uses for this. And one thing I would say, for example, right, would be, let's say you're an e-com business and you want to retarget for a specific product. Let's say you have a particular product you want to run ads against. Well, the best people you would want to target, you'd want to kind of add some filtering probably, and filter by maybe people who have already looked at that product. Maybe people who have looked at that product and similar products on your site. Maybe that's the audience you want to do for retargeting. Maybe you want to leave out everybody who's just visited your homepage, or everybody who's, say if you want to run an ad against shoes, people who are looking at dresses might not be interested in your shoes at this time. So let's say you just filter by certain product pages, and then you take all of those SHA-256 codes and you upload them into your Facebook Ads Manager. And then there you go. You have a retargeting audience of people who have already looked at your site at particular pieces on your site. And then you can get like insanely low like customer acquisition cost levels for those ads and make your ads far more effective that way. So that's a really good way to start in creating like those unique audiences. And there's a ton more applications too. I mean, it works for LinkedIn ads. It works pretty much anywhere that you're running ads. And that's really like how we're able to make the retargeting ads super effective. Now, let's say you want to do more than that. Let's say you want to do retargeting ads and email them to see if they want to get into your newsletter. Well, you can do both. So add them to your retargeting ads in Facebook, add a quick, I would say a very short, simple email sequence. I mean, to say, hey, we'd really like to add you to our newsletter list. Here's kind of what to expect. Can we add you? That is kind of important. You want to make sure you're being careful of like opt-ins and opt-outs, but that's a really easy way to do it. Or you can, as long as it's super easy for people to unsubscribe from a newsletter list, there you go. For like an e-com business, that might be a really good method to use. Or you can maybe even use like SMS messaging, as long as you're following the proper like do not call rules. Maybe you send SMS text messages to people who are looking at particular products when that product goes on sale. That might be a good option.
Yeah. And I think the best part is like it's dynamic, right? So like you can look at your ads and ad costs and say, wow, like it is costing us, maybe a tenth to get a retargeting ad on, or conversion from a retargeting ad on, say TikTok, right? So I can then move anyone. It doesn't matter if they came from organic or Google or whatever. I can put them in a retargeting campaign on TikTok specifically, and then instead of spending like $100, I can spend 10. Like that's amazing. That's a lot. And it doesn't have to be like that big of a difference. Even just like fractions of percent, pennies, all of those numbers do add up. So that's the power of like retargeting. Usually it's more in the dollars than the cents side, but yeah, it doesn't really matter where they come from, as long as that what they're doing, who they are, and then if they're more positive or less positive to purchase that product or service, that's where the power of the retargeting ads do come in.
Nico, do you want to dive into email now?
I would love to do email. It's my background now. To think that I've been doing it for now, it'll be 2 years in December, which is kind of weird to think about, huh, Larissa? It's been a long journey, but yeah, the best part about this is there's so many different ways for both B2B and B2C clients to adopt like an email strategy. So like Larissa was saying, on B2C, like you could do ads and then you can add like an email in there to ask people to join your newsletter or promo, or say, hey, listen, like you left your 5 or 10% discount code there. All of the people in your newsletter are potential customers that have all opted in for whatever reason. And based on the segmentation that you have within your CRM, which is just like a fancy way of saying like, oh, this is Joe and Joe likes like pink smoothies, right? That's really great to know that Joe likes pink smoothies. So you can retarget Joe with email for pink smoothies. Now we can import that data directly from visitors from the website, opt them in into a newsletter. And then I was talking to a brand the other day, and there's average order was like $16 to $18 per order that they have from their email subscribers. So if we just assume that they're going to purchase once a month and we add 500 people into that with a hyper custom one, I mean, we're looking at a lot of money that can be actually attributed to new mail subscribers. Now on the B2B side, there's so many different strategies, but the best one that we have for email is cold outreach. Again, you can add them to a newsletter, but that's a little bit of a slower burn. The best part in kind of like moving into the next part of 2022, 2023, and so on is like customization. So if I know that you are looking at a specific solution, let's say that you do accounting services and then there was a contact form that you were on, I can then say, hey, are you still looking for an accountant? Let's find the time to chat. Or hey, you didn't fill out the demo. Can we connect? The second one's a little bit more intrusive, to be honest. But there are ways to then cold outreach custom to that person where when they get that email, they're frankly in a better spot than if they just got a cold email. An example I had with a prospect this morning was, would you rather want an email to say, I can get you 5 new patients, or I can get you 5 new hip patients in New York that struggle with diabetes. Like the second one was like so custom where when you get it, you're like, wow, this is written just for me. But the best part is just the data that fed into the system. So you're really like targeting now based on the data rather than guessing what the person's interested in or their actual pain points. So that's the power of the like leads and data that you generate from the site on an email front, both B2B and B2C. As you can tell, I'm really excited, and that's why I talk fast about it, because it's just awesome.
The passion is there for sure. So next on my list is sales call, cold calling, all of that. Do we want to
Cold
talk about that?
calling. Yeah. So I'll take this one. Larissa, you can take the direct mail one. Yeah, cold calling is interesting because, again, like the email side, this is much more for high-end B2C services and products, and not really like the juices of the world or anything like that. So you could really, let's say that you're looking for luxury patio furniture, and like the average ticket for that is like $5,000. It's amazing that you can get your salespeople, people who are literally looking at a specific item, and then have them then cold call those individuals. Same with the B2B side. Like if you know that the product manager at a startup was looking at your tax software, you can give them a cold call and say, hey, listen, like a lot of SaaS companies we talk to struggle with this. We just wanted to see if we have any value. Like you now have context, which I think is the best thing that this data provides. These are warm leads that have context on who you are, what you do, and are warm. Like they already know your brand. So you could say Boundless Media to someone in the street, and I mean, they probably won't know who we are because the average person is not our target. But if you say Boundless Media to a prospect that was just on the site, they have context on who you are. And now you can extrapolate that out to the other B2B, B2C, high-end services, products, higher ticket, to just have like much more context on like who to reach out to. Because you can only make so many calls in a day with cold call. Email, you can send millions and millions of emails, but a salesperson's time is valuable. So you want to make sure that they're going after only people who are really in the market.
Yeah, and to your point there, Nico, it's not just people who are in market, but it's also making sure you're following like rules and regulations along with that. And so we help there too by making sure that like with all phone numbers we provide, we make sure to let you know if that phone number is on the do not call list, the National Do Not Call Registry. And if they are, you really should probably not call them and maybe use a different method of outreach to get in contact with them. But those are all different ways that we can help. So on top of that would be, one other option would be direct mail. So we are able to get addresses and things for individuals. If you find that your direct mailers are super profitable and, get people back into your business, well, now you have a perfect resource of all of the people to send mailers to because they've already been on your site. The likelihood that they've been on your site and then they get a mailer from you is, that could help somebody convert and add to your platform. So kind of like Nico was saying, let's say you do have, luxury furniture. I'll just continue on that example. And you send them an example saying, hey, in store only today for everybody in this region, because we can filter and group by region and things. Everybody in this region gets this mailer. It's going out on Saturday for a sale that goes the following week. If you bring the mailer in, you get 20% off. That's a good way to make people come into your store and look at all your products. And even if maybe they don't leave with the patio furniture that they had initially looked at on your site, maybe they'll leave with something else. And so those are different ways that we can use those mailers and use these different products to make sure that people are getting like in the door as quickly as possible.
And the best part is like you can actually track this for both ads, cold calling, emails, for direct mail. The nice thing is you can actually track your success now because you knew that, hey, 1,000 people were looking at this expensive furniture, right? Luxury furniture. And then we sent out, this many like emails to them with a promotion. You can then see, oh, out of 1,000, 200 opened them, 100 people redeemed the code, 50 came in, and then 10 bought. But each product is worth $5,000, right? So like you made from those 1,000 people, you made $50,000. Again, there's costs and stuff associated with it, but you can now track the costs and the value and the ROI throughout the whole channel, which I think is often very hard to do with other mechanisms. I mean, there are amazing softwares out there, but because of how we structured the data and the leads, like it's pretty easy to see how much an ROI actually like happens throughout the life cycle.
Yeah, and on top of this, right, so you have a lot of these data sources, and we've talked about a lot of the ways that you can use this data. Most of these methods you can add a level of automation to have it enhancing your marketing efforts in the background. So I'll just kind of go back through the list. So we talked about ads, email, sales call, and direct mail, right? So if we're talking about ads, right, what we can do is, because everybody's going into a database, you can set up an automation that says whenever somebody enters this website page, add them to my retargeting campaign for that product, for example. And that can all happen automatically without you touching anything. On top of that, let's go to email, right? Again, email, if you want to do segmented email, and you're, let's say, a B2B business in this scenario, you want to say, if somebody's looking at our services page and also visited one or two other pages on our site, definitely send them an email introduction that just says, something along the lines of like, hey, it's super nice to meet you. I came across you and thought you might be a great fit for our business. Do you have time this week to chat, or something along those lines? I mean, that's not perfect copy. I would workshop that a little bit, but just as an example. Then for sales calls, so let's say you want to get this automatically into your CRM and designated out to, if you have a cold calling center, if you have different salespeople on staff. We have clients currently that's what they do. They automatically pull in people, and then it goes to people based on their region, because let's say somebody is in charge of West Virginia and somebody's in charge of North Carolina. And you want to make sure anybody that comes in that's in North Carolina goes to your North Carolina salesperson. Anybody that comes in from West Virginia goes to your West Virginia salesperson. We can do all that as well. You can make sure that gets segmented out and help you set that up in your CRM. The next one would be direct mail. If you are working with a direct mail service, you can have anybody who meets certain qualifications go directly to them without any intervention on your part. Just automatically gets emailed over to them that says, hey, add this person to the list. Or if you have a running sheet or list or something like that people get added to be able to do these types of campaigns, we can do that too. So not only can you use this data in all of these ways, in many cases, you can just set this data up to work for you and you don't even have to touch it beyond that.
Try to make this as automated as possible. That's Larissa's motto. So, Justine, do you have any questions on like other ideas for how to use this data?
No, those were all the questions I had. If you guys want to leave any last pieces of advice, otherwise I think we can wrap it up.
No, I think the biggest thing is just like do it, right? Like as boring as it is like we have people who do free trials and they're like, God, this data is amazing. I'm like, okay, cool. How much money have you made from it? It's like, oh, nothing. We don't know how to use it. And I'm like, oh, but you run ads, you email, like do it, right? Which is obviously like easier said than done. Like I understand that, but the biggest thing is like don't overthink it. Like pick one avenue. Right? We mentioned 4, but there probably are a lot more, and we'll keep updating the list as we go through it. But the biggest thing is just like get started, like execute on one, analyze the data, and then keep going. Right. So
Yeah. The only other thing I would add to that is, let's say if you have like specific landing pages or anything set up, again, you can make sure to do follow-up actions and things based on site activity. So if you have specific landing pages up, you can not only track those landing pages and exactly who's going to them, but have follow-up actions on those as well. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this data and a lot of different actions you can take to try to get more people in the door, more sales coming in, or whatever really your KPI is. Let's say it's meetings booked, or increase site visitors or add to newsletter or whatever. You can always come up with a plan to help get yourself towards those KPIs using this data, which is like very valuable data and knowledge on who's visiting your site.
Absolutely. And if you have questions and want to give it a whirl, we're always happy to do so. Just email me at nico@balancedmedia.com. As always, it's been the amazing dream team, Larissa, Justine, and I would include myself in that list as well. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll talk real soon. Cheers.